Welcome to the Concierge Care Health System podcast. The information shared in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Listeners should be aware the content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a physician or other qualified healthcare provider for medical questions.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're plunging into a transformation that's redefining something profoundly personal to all of us: medicine. Imagine moving beyond simply reacting to illness to a future where care is proactive, highly precise, and deeply tailored to you. That seismic shift is accelerating right now, powered by technology. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the complex, sometimes surprising, convergence of healthcare and artificial intelligence. It's a journey that's already moving at warp speed, from the lab bench directly to your bedside.
And we've gathered a pretty comprehensive set of sources for this. We're looking at AI's impact across diagnostics, treatment, drug discovery. It's really broad. The key thing, I think, is that AI isn't some far-off concept in medicine anymore. It's actually right now fundamentally reshaping how healthcare is practiced. It's happening as we speak, and the implications are, well, they're profound.
Okay, so let's break this down, starting at the foundation. What are the sort of core forces really pushing this huge shift in medicine? I mean, for one, it seems to be this convergence of just incredible computational power and an almost overwhelming amount of health data, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge piece. The sheer computing power we have now combined with this explosion of data. Think about everything generating health data, your smartwatch, hospital sensors, genomic sequencing. It's massive.
And multimodal, too, right? Not just numbers, but images, text.
Exactly. Images, notes, genetic codes, sensor readings. It's incredibly varied. But it's not just the tech pull. There are also these huge global challenges pushing healthcare towards innovation.
You mean things like aging populations?
Yes, exactly. Rapidly aging populations globally, the rising burden of chronic diseases, diabetes, heart disease, you name it, and frankly, healthcare costs that are just spiraling out of control in many places. These pressures create this real urgent need for smarter solutions.
And I suppose COVID-19 threw fuel on that fire.
Absolutely. The pandemic was a massive catalyst. It starkly exposed weaknesses in healthcare systems everywhere, and it forced this rapid adoption of digital health tech, including AI, for everything from crisis management to just scaling up virtual care almost overnight. It showed us change could happen fast when needed.
Right. So behind this acceleration, what are the actual AI technologies? You mentioned it's like a new digital heartbeat.
Yeah.
What are the components?
Yeah, it's helpful to think of it as a toolbox. Several core AI disciplines are really driving this. These aren't just buzzwords. They're specific tools letting computers do tasks that, used to require human smarts.
Okay, so what's in the toolbox?
Well, the foundation for a lot of it is machine learning, or ML. That's the basic ability for algorithms to learn complex patterns from data without being explicitly programmed for every single scenario. They build predictive models.
Learning from experience, essentially.
Precisely. And a really powerful subset of ML is deep learning, DL, which uses these complex structures called neural networks. Within DL, you have specializations like convolutional neural networks, GNNs. These are phenomenal for analyzing images, think X-rays, pathology slides.
Spotting things the human eye might miss.
Potentially, yes, or just doing it faster and more consistently. Then for data that unfolds over time, like your electronic health record or signals from patient monitors, we use recurrent neural networks, RNNs, and a more advanced type called LSTMs. They're good at understanding sequences and time series data.
Okay, so images, time series data. What about all the written stuff? Doctor's notes, research papers?
That's where natural language processing, NLP, comes in. It gives machines the ability to understand, interpret, and even generate human language. Absolutely crucial for unlocking insights buried in, all those unstructured clinical notes or wading through mountains of scientific literature.
That sounds incredibly useful.
It is. And one more, becoming really important, especially in areas like drug discovery, is graph neural networks, or GNNs. These are designed for data structured like networks. Think about the complex web of interactions inside your cells, how proteins interact, how genes influence disease pathways. GNNs can map and analyze these intricate biological networks. Really powerful stuff.
Wow, okay. That's quite the toolkit. Now, you mentioned the push from challenges and the pull from tech. But what about the money? Big transformations usually need serious economic momentum.
Oh, the economic side is It's staggering, frankly. The AI healthcare market was valued around, what, $11 billion back in 2021?
Okay.
The projection is for it to soar to $187 billion by 2030.
$187 billion. That's astronomical growth.
It is. And it's not just hype. This is being driven by major strategic focus from the biggest names in tech: Google, Apple, Microsoft, IBM. They see healthcare as a critical and, frankly, very promising area for AI application. It's a huge priority for them.
So it becomes this self-feeding loop, doesn't it? Healthcare needs pull in AI. The value demonstrated attracts more cash and talent, which just speeds everything up even more.
That's exactly the dynamic. It's a reinforcing cycle. So, look, the conversation really isn't if AI will reshape medicine anymore. It's happening. The real questions now are how we govern it, how we integrate it safely and effectively, and how we scale it responsibly.
Right. So let's dive into that how. Let's talk diagnostics first. You mentioned moving from reactive to predictive. Medical imaging seems like the obvious starting point with those CNNs you talked about, radiology, pathology.
Yeah, they're prime examples. Because the data is visual, CNNs just excel there. They can be trained to identify these really subtle patterns, sometimes things that are genuinely hard for the human eye to catch consistently, especially under workload pressure.
And is it actually performing well? What does the evidence say?
The evidence is quite compelling, actually. There was a major review in the Lancet Digital Health that looked at deep learning across various medical imaging tasks. It found AI algorithms were, broadly speaking, comparable to human experts. The numbers were something like 87% sensitivity and 93% specificity for AI versus 86% and 91% for the human professionals in those studies.
Okay, comparable is impressive, but 87 versus 86%. Does that small difference really matter in practice? Or what's the bigger picture there?
That's a fair question. In medicine, even a single percentage point difference, when scaled across millions of screenings, can mean thousands of patients getting diagnosed earlier or avoiding unnecessary procedures. Take breast cancer detection. A big meta-analysis looking at over 120,000 patients across 8 studies found AI systems had a notably higher sensitivity, 0.85, compared to 0.77 for radiologists.
Okay, that's a clearer difference.
Right, and the overall diagnostic performance, what they call AUC, was also better for AI, 0.89 versus 0.82. So it's not just about being comparable. In some cases, it's demonstrably better at picking things up and reducing false alarms. And maybe even more importantly, it's about consistency. And AI doesn't get tired or distracted reading the 1,000th scan of the day.
True.
There was another interesting study in Radiology in 2023 on lung cancer. It showed how AI assisted radiologists. It wasn't AI alone. When radiologists use the AI tool, their sensitivity for detecting cancerous lesions went up from 0.53 to 0.63, and their specificity improved too, from 0.88 to 0.94. That really points to this collaborative future.
Human AI teaming up.
Exactly. Augmentation, not replacement.
But there's this validation gap people talk about, right?
Mm.
What does this mean for rolling it out everywhere? We need more than just these controlled studies.
Absolutely. We need rigorous, large-scale prospective clinical trials. Studies set up in real-world conditions following patients forward to truly prove the benefit beyond the lab or retrospective analysis. So the immediate value right now is definitely augmentation, helping radiologists manage workload, reducing variability between readers, maybe catching things earlier. It frees them up for the really complex cases needing deep human judgment.
Okay, so that's about seeing disease now. What about seeing into the future? You mentioned predictive analytics, forecasting patient outcomes.
Yes, this is another huge area. AI analyzing all that longitudinal data in your electronic health record, especially in critical care settings like the ICU. It's being used to predict things like mortality risk, the likelihood of developing sepsis, even the chance of being readmitted to the hospital soon after discharge.
How does it do better than the old scoring systems, like APT?
Well, those traditional scores are often based on a limited set of variables and simpler models. They can struggle with the sheer complexity and the sort of nonlinear relationships in rich clinical data. A really cutting-edge example is something called the TECO model, transformer-based encounter-level clinical outcome. It uses the same kind of transformer architecture that powers advanced AI, like ChatGPT.
Really? The language models?
Yeah, but applied to medical records. It reads the entire patient encounter record, paying attention to the most relevant bits over time, just like reading a complex story. And its accuracy is remarkable. Studies showed AUCs that measure of diagnostic ability between 0.89 and 0.97 for predicting various outcomes.
That's very high.
It is. And crucially, it provides earlier warnings. For mortality prediction, it could achieve accuracy at the 60-hour mark. that older systems might only reach around the 12-hour mark.
Wow, that's a huge difference in time for doctors to potentially intervene.
Yes, exactly. Much more lead time. Plus, models like TECO are often designed to be more transparent, more explainable than some older black box commercial tools, which helps build clinician trust.
Okay, prediction is powerful. And this leads nicely into another area, continuous monitoring, the rise of digital biomarkers from wearables, right? Our watches, phones, they're constantly collecting data about us.
They are. And combined with AI, this creates digital biomarkers, continuous streams of physiological or behavioral data analyzed for health insights. It's monitoring you in your real life, not just in the clinic.
Like the Apple Watch detecting AFib.
That's a classic example, yeah. Analyzing heart rate variability and activity data to spot potential atrial fibrillation. Or think about women's health apps using wrist temperature data overnight to estimate ovulation timing retrospectively.
Okay.
And looking forward, there's research into analyzing voice patterns, just how you speak, for subtle early signs of neurological conditions like Parkinson's, or even changes associated with mood disorders like depression.
From your voice. That's amazing.
Yeah, potentially non-invasive, scalable monitoring using data points we never really captured systematically before.
This all feels very personalized. Which brings us neatly to precision medicine, tailoring treatment based on integrating all this diverse data, genomics, clinical records, imaging, lifestyle.
Exactly. AI is the engine that can actually synthesize all these different data types to create that truly individualized picture. Oncology is probably the leading example right now.
Because cancer is so unique to each person's genetics.
Precisely. Cancer is fundamentally a disease of the genome. AI helps decipher those complex genetic mutations in a tumor, identify biomarkers that predict response to certain drugs, and guide therapy choices. There was a big study from USC looking at, I think, nearly 80,000 patients across 20 cancer types. AI identified 95 specific genes linked to survival outcomes. For instance, variations in DNA repair pathway genes could predict better response to immunotherapy in lung cancer, while certain KRAS mutations were linked to poorer outcomes with specific therapies. It gets really granular.
So it's moving beyond just lung cancer treatment to treatment for your specific genetic subtype of lung cancer.
That's the goal, and it goes even further. Look at companies like Moderna using AI to develop individualized neoantigen therapies. They sequence a patient's tumor, use AI to predict which specific mutations will produce fragments, neoantigens, that the immune system can recognize strongly, and then design a custom mRNA vaccine just for that patient to train their immune system to attack their specific cancer.
Wow, truly personalized vaccines.
Yeah. And even simpler things, like using NLP, the language processing AI, on doctor's notes. Studies show NLP can identify the primary cancer type, say for brain metastases, from unstructured text with over 90% accuracy. That's often better or more detailed than just relying on billing codes.
This isn't just for cancer, though. What about managing chronic conditions, diabetes, heart disease?
Absolutely. For chronic diseases, AI offers this holistic, continuous view. It can integrate data from glucose monitors, activity trackers, diet logs for someone with diabetes, and then recommend personalized adjustments, maybe to insulin dosage or lifestyle. It can also predict high-risk events, like a likely hospital readmission for a heart failure patient, allowing for proactive outreach.
So intervening before the crisis.
Right. And AI-powered tools are getting better, too. Virtual assistants for patient education, apps reminding you to take meds, answering common questions, even ambient sensors in hospital rooms, using AI to passively monitor for things like fall risk or subtle signs of infection.
And AI is actually getting involved during procedures, too. Surgery, radiation.
Yeah, augmenting the clinician's skill. In surgery, AI can create incredibly detailed 3D models from scans for planning. Robotic systems assisted by AI can filter out a surgeon's natural hand tremors for microsurgery.
Making movements more precise.
Exactly. Or in radiation oncology, planning treatment involves outlining the tumor and nearby healthy organs on scans. It's incredibly time-consuming and requires high consistency. AI can automate large parts of this contouring process, freeing up oncologists and improving consistency. And we're seeing more real-time decision support. Platforms like Meditech's Expanse Genomics can integrate genetic data directly into the electronic health record and use AI to flag relevant treatment guidelines or clinical trials right when the doctor needs it.
So the insights are right there in the workflow.
That's the idea. But, connecting The real challenge, the big technical hurdle to making all this precision treatment widespread is integrating all that disparate data, getting the genomics, the imaging, the clinical notes, the wearable data, all into one place where AI can analyze it comprehensively. We need that standardized, interoperable data infrastructure.
Data integration, always the key. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about the pipeline before treatment. Drug discovery and development. This is an area notorious for, well, being incredibly expensive and slow, right?
Yeah. Oh, incredibly so. You're talking over a decade, often billions of dollars, to bring a single new drug to market. And the failure rate is just brutal. Something like 90% of drugs that enter clinical trials never actually make it.
A 90% failure rate. That's staggering.
It is. And that's where AI offers this huge promise to help researchers fail faster, succeed sooner, to de-risk the process, identify dead ends earlier, and focus resources on the compounds most likely to actually work. It could fundamentally change the economics of R&D.
Okay, so how does it help at the very start? Finding the biological target for a potential drug.
AI is transforming target ID. You have NLP tools scanning millions of scientific papers looking for connections between genes, proteins, and diseases that humans might miss. Simultaneously, machine learning algorithms analyze huge omics datasets, genomics, proteomics looking for patterns associated with disease, and those graph neural networks we mentioned. They're used in network pharmacology to model the complex web of biological interactions, helping pinpoint the most strategic places to intervene with a drug.
Finding the key node in the network, so to speak.
Kind of, yeah. Identifying the molecular switch you want to flip.
All right, so you found a target. Now you need to find a molecule, a potential drug that hits it. How does AI speed that up? Used to be laborious screening, right?
Hugely laborious. Now we have AI-enhanced virtual screening. Instead of physically testing compounds one by one in the lab, AI models, especially deep learning and GNNs, can computationally screen billions of digital molecules against the target, predicting how well they'll bind. It's massively faster and cheaper.
Screening billions digitally.
Exactly. And even more advanced is de novo drug design. Here, generative AI models actually design entirely new molecules from scratch, computationally optimizing them for specific properties like binding affinity, solubility, low toxicity.
So AI is literally inventing new drug candidates.
Essentially, yes. Designing them based on desired characteristics. Companies like InSilico, Atomwise, they're pioneers in this space, taking AI-designed candidates from concept to validation much faster than traditional methods.
Okay, that covers discovery. But you said the biggest hurdle is later in preclinical and clinical development, where 90% fail. How does AI help there?
A major reason for failure is unexpected toxicity or poor pharmacokinetic properties, how the drug is absorbed, distributed, metabolized, excreted. ADM. AI models, particularly transformer-based ones trained on chemical structures, are getting really good at predictive toxicology. They can forecast potential liver toxicity, heart problems, etc., just from the molecule structure before it even goes into costly animal tests or early human trials.
Catching problems way earlier.
Much earlier, saving huge amounts of time and money by weeding out problematic compounds. And then in human clinical trials, AI is optimizing the process itself. A key application is patient stratification.
Meaning finding the right patients for the trial.
Exactly. By analyzing patient data, AI can identify subgroups who are most likely to respond well to the specific drug being tested. This allows for smaller, faster, more targeted trials. You get a clear signal of efficacy with fewer participants because you've enriched the trial population.
More likely to succeed because you picked the right group.
Right. And there are even AI tools like Trial Pathfinder that can run virtual simulations of trials, testing different inclusion-exclusion criteria computationally to optimize the design before you even recruit the first patient. It's all about de-risking and improving the odds.
Okay, the potential across discovery, development, diagnosis, treatment, it's immense. But let's get real about the implementation gauntlet, as you called it. Getting this from the algorithm to the actual bedside, it feels like there's a tension, a kind of trilemma. Balancing the speed of innovation, ensuring patient safety and proper validation, and just the practicalities of making it work everywhere equitably.
That's a perfect way to put it. It
Right.
is a trilemma, and the practical challenges are significant. Let's start with the economics. The upfront cost of implementing sophisticated AI can be a major barrier, especially for smaller hospitals or clinics. We're not talking small change.
How much are we talking?
It varies wildly, of course, but you could be looking at, say, $40,000 for a relatively simple ML feature integrated into an existing system, maybe upwards of $200,000. or much more for complex generative AI or deep learning systems. And that's before you factor in the necessary hardware upgrades. Powerful GPUs can cost over $100,000 plus data acquisition, cleaning, labeling, which can run into tens of thousands. Then there's integrating it with the electronic health record system, which is often complex and costly, easily $25,000 plus. And ensuring HIPAA compliance adds another layer, anywhere from $10,000 to $150,000 depending on complexity, plus ongoing costs for talent, retraining staff. Yeah. It adds up fast. Wow, okay, those are serious numbers. But presumably the argument is that the long-term savings or value justifies it. What's the other side of that coin?
That's the promise, absolutely. The projected savings are also huge. Estimates for the U.S. healthcare system alone range from $200 billion to maybe $360 billion annually.
Where would those savings come from?
Several areas. Operational efficiencies, automating administrative tasks, optimizing hospital workflows, streamlining claims processing, then improved clinical outcomes, fewer hospital readmissions, better management of chronic diseases, reducing complications, preventing medical errors. That all avoids significant costs down the line. There was a good example with a tuberculosis monitoring platform using AI. It proved to be more effective clinically than the standard approach, but also less expensive overall. So it's possible to get better care and save money.
Better outcomes, lower cost. That's the ideal. But beyond cost, what about the ethical minefield? This seems critical. Like algorithmic bias if the AI learns from flawed historical data.
This is a huge concern, and rightly so. AI systems learn from the data they're trained on. If that data reflects existing societal biases or health inequities, the AI will learn and potentially amplify those biases.
Can you give an example?
There was a really prominent study published in Science. It found a widely used algorithm for predicting healthcare needs was significantly biased against Black patients. Why? Because it used past healthcare costs as a proxy for sickness. But Black patients, often due to systemic factors, historically incurred lower healthcare costs for the same level of illness. So the algorithm assigned them lower risk scores, meaning they were less likely to be enrolled in care management programs even when they were sicker.
Wow, so the bias was baked into the proxy measure.
Exactly. Another common example is in dermatology. AI trained primarily on images of lighter skin tones, leading to poorer performance in detecting conditions on darker skin.
So how do we fix that?
It requires conscious effort. Using diverse and representative training data is crucial. Conducting rigorous bias audits before deploying AI. Ensuring diverse development teams who might spot potential issues earlier. It's an ongoing process.
And what about privacy? AI needs so much data. And transparency, the black box problem if doctors don't understand why the AI recommends something.
Both critical points. For privacy, it's about strict adherence to regulations like HIPAA and GDPR, using robust encryption, secure data storage, de-identification where possible, and very clear patient consent processes. The data hunger needs careful management. For transparency, that black box issue, especially with complex deep learning models, is a real barrier to trust. We need to develop and implement explainable AI, XAI techniques, tools that can provide some insight into how the AI reached its conclusion. But fundamentally, there must always be human oversight. AI should be seen as a tool providing recommendations or insights, but the final clinical decision and the accountability for it rests with the human clinician. They need to be able to understand and critically evaluate the AI's output.
That leads to other tough questions, doesn't it? Like liability. If an AI makes a mistake, who's responsible? The doctor, the hospital,
the developer.
That's a legal and ethical gray area that's still being worked out. It highlights the need for clear regulatory frameworks and standards, and just basic trust. Clinicians might worry about job displacement or losing autonomy. Patients might be skeptical, right? There's research showing people can be biased against AI advice compared to human advice.
Absolutely. Clinician trust is vital for adoption. They need to see AI as a helpful partner, not a replacement or a threat. And patient trust is equally important. Studies have shown a public bias against AI-generated medical advice, sometimes rating human advice as more empathetic or reliable, even if the AI's technical recommendation is sound. There's also this concept of uniqueness neglect, patients feeling an algorithm can't possibly understand their unique situation.
And a longer-term worry, could over-reliance lead to de-skilling? Clinicians losing their own diagnostic or reasoning skills if they just click accept on the AI recommendation all the time.
That is a valid long-term concern. If clinicians become too dependent and the AI is unavailable or malfunctions, patient safety could be compromised. It underscores the need for ongoing training and maintaining critical thinking skills, using AI as a tool, not a crutch.
So, navigating all this, What about the regulators? What's the FDA, for example, doing to manage this flood of AI medical tools?
The FDA is actually being quite proactive. They've established specific pathways for authorizing AI and machine learning-enabled medical devices. As of mid-2024, they had authorized, I believe, over 850 such devices.
850 already. Wow. Mostly in imaging.
Yes, radiology is by far the dominant category, which makes sense given the early successes there. Companies like GE Healthcare, Siemens Healthineers, they're leading the pack in terms of number of authorizations. But the FDA recognizes that AI isn't static. Models can learn and change. So they're exploring more adaptive regulatory approaches, things like regulatory sandboxes for testing and requirements for continuous monitoring of AI performance after it's deployed in the real world. It's about ensuring safety without completely stifling innovation.
It's a tough balance. And coming back to that human element, you mentioned clinician trust. A study found 70% of doctors had concerns about using AI in diagnostics. How do we bridge that gap? Is it just about better tech or more training?
It's definitely not just about the tech. Robust training is absolutely essential. Not just here's how to use the button, but training on understanding the AI's strengths and limitations, how to interpret its outputs critically, how biases might creep in, and how to integrate it smoothly into their workflow without causing more work. Building that confidence takes time, and it requires demonstrating clear, tangible benefits in their daily practice. If it doesn't make their job easier or their patient outcomes better, adoption will stall, no matter how clever the algorithm is.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. We've seen AI as this incredibly powerful, diverse toolkit. It's already delivering real value in diagnostics and treatment planning, speeding up drug discovery. But we've also hit on these really significant hurdles: the economics of implementation, the complex ethical landscape, the regulatory navigation, and maybe most importantly, the human factors building trust, ensuring proper training, addressing fears. It really is that trilemma: innovation versus safety versus practical adoption.
Exactly. And the crucial takeaway, I think, is that the impact AI ultimately has on medicine isn't predetermined by the technology itself. It's going to be shaped by the values we embed in it, the choices we make about its deployment, and the policies we put in place to govern it. There's the optimistic view. AI genuinely gives the gift of time. It automates the tedious, data-heavy tasks, freeing up clinicians to spend more quality time on the uniquely human aspects of care: empathy, communication, complex ethical reasoning, building relationships with patients.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. Then there's the more cynical view, that the efficiency gains will just be used to push more patients through the system faster, potentially leading to less human interaction, making care feel more transactional, more dehumanized.
A worrying possibility.
It is. But the key point is, that outcome isn't inevitable. It depends on how we choose to integrate these tools. The most successful models we're seeing emphasize human-AI collaboration, technology augmenting human intelligence, judgment, and compassion, not trying to replace it.
So, charting a path forward, what does that look like? What needs to happen? It sounds like rigorous validation is key, moving beyond those initial studies to really large-scale, real-world trials.
Absolutely critical. Prospective validation is paramount.
And deep collaboration, not just tech people, but clinicians, patients, ethicists, policymakers, all working together.
Essential. It has to be interdisciplinary from the start, co-designing solutions.
And finally, governance. That's, well, dynamic enough to keep up with the tech, ensuring accountability, but also allowing responsible innovation to flourish.
Yes, adaptive governance is the term often used. Regulation that can evolve alongside the technology.
So maybe the final thought for our listeners is this: by consciously and deliberately embedding principles like transparency, fairness, rigorous validation, and clear human oversight into the medical AI we build, we have the chance to create a future that isn't just more efficient or precise. We could actually build one that's more equitable, more accessible, and maybe, just maybe, ultimately more human.
Concierge Care, providing world-class, personalized care for patients and members. Taking a proactive approach by offering its free digital health clinic for anyone in need of these services. Reach out to us via our website, www.health.conciergecare.net, or give us a phone call at 786-809-2345.